Welcome back to the shop. This video is a first timer's guide to riding a motocross track. So you've never ridden a motocross track before, you're real interested in going out there and trying it, but you're nervous, you don't know what to expect, you really don't even know how it works. Well, this video I'm going to try my best to explain all that, as well as give you the tools that you need to go there the first time and maybe not even look like a first timer, as if that really matters anyway. It really doesn't. And hopefully after watching this video, you will have the confidence to go out there and try it for the first time, because it's worth it. I've been doing this for a lot of years. I'm pretty much at a motocross track every weekend. It's been like that since I was like 20 years old. I'm 47 now. So I've seen a lot of beginners throughout my years. And most beginners, the two things that they're concerned about are the jumps, number one, and we're going to address that. And just they think they're going to be made fun of because they're a beginner. But I have to tell you, no one's really going to make fun of you. No one's even really paying attention to you. Most people are concerned about themselves when they're at the track, as far as like they're more concerned about how they're riding and their own performance to be even concerned about your performance. So you don't have to worry about that. Most people are very helpful too. Also, don't be nervous or concerned about the jumps, because you're the one that's in control of your bike. You're not expected to go out there and do all the jumps or anything as a first timer at the track or as a beginner. And honestly, the pressure that you feel is only the pressure you put on yourself. Just tell yourself, I'm going to go out there and roll the jumps, and as time goes on, as I feel comfortable, maybe I'll start giving a little more gas, catching a little bit of air, and work my way up to it. So don't be worried about that. So if you're lucky, you're going to have more than one track within a reasonable driving distance from your house. So take some time, maybe get on Facebook, get on the internet, figure out what you have, ask around. Let's just assume you have 3 good tracks within driving distance that you're comfortable with. Between them 3 tracks, it's your first time out there, so you're going to want to figure out which one's going to be your first track. Facebook is a real good place to check out the track, see what's going on, check their hours of operation for practice days, because again, you're just going there to ride the track. You're not going out there to race, you're going there for a practice day. And again, you're going to want to ask around a little bit. Ask people which track is the most beginner friendly, because even if you're a good rider in the woods or on flat ground or whatever, tracks are a little bit different, and you're going to want to pick the more beginner friendly track for your first time out. Preferably a track that is not too hard packed, so that every tip over you're breaking levers or you're hurting your elbow, and not too soft that you're almost in survival mode because your wheels are just sinking in soft sand the whole time. You want something somewhere in the middle, preferably, if you can get that. Great. But it does help, and it will build your confidence as well, if you can blend in just a little bit. That helps a lot. I've seen the most beginners out there blend in real well, and it goes a long ways. And one of the things that help you blend in is having numbers on your bike. So like you see, this bike has no numbers. There's 2 people I see at the track that typically have no numbers. It's the really fast guy that just doesn't care. He flies through bikes all the time. It's his practice bike, or it's just a flat out beginner. So you want to be somewhere in the middle of that. Obviously you want to look like someone in the middle of that. So just get some numbers on your bike. Even if you just have to buy the little stick-on numbers, you just stick on real quick. Just get some numbers on your bike. And the beauty of that is, that's how we identify people at the track. I know people more by their numbers than I even know them by name. So numbers are pretty important. And the second thing I'm going to say is, make sure you have full riding gear. You're going to want to have boots, a helmet, goggles, and gloves at the bare minimum for safety reasons, obviously. But it doesn't hurt to also have some motocross riding pants and a motocross jersey. A chest protector always helps. It can save you. It can save them handlebars from poking you right in the rib during a corner crash. And whatever protective gear the extra that you like. Knee pads. If you're not going to wear knee braces, at least wear knee pads underneath your riding pants, motocross knee pads, because typically when you go down in a corner, a lot of times you're going to land on your knees, and that helps. Also, if you have rocks on the track, and the bike in front of you kicks a rock at you, hits you in the knee, it can hurt. So, consider some knee pads too. But the idea is to blend in a little bit. And it's okay if all your gear looks brand new and you think, oh man, I'm going to look like a beginner because all my gear is brand new. Well, in motocross, a lot of people like to have brand new gear, even the really fast guys. So you're going to see guys out there with shabby old gear worn out, and you're going to see guys out there that are the pretty boys that are going to have the brand new gear with the perfectly looking bike. So again, no matter if you have older gear or newer gear, just put some numbers on your bike, wear your gear, and you're going to blend right in. Whew. I'm actually in the middle of doing some fork seals on this bike right here. You can see they're leaking. They were leaking real bad, but I cleaned them for the lady so she can get one more day riding on them. So I'm making this video as I'm doing some fork seals, if you're wondering what I'm doing here. But let's continue on. And the next tip I'm going to have for you is make sure your bike's actually ready for the track. If you're one of these guys that like to ride on the road and your back tire is bald, just get a new back tire. Make sure your brakes work. Make sure everything on your bike is good, because you're getting on a motocross track and there are going to be other people on the track. So for safety reasons, you want to make sure you have a good, safe bike. So make sure your brakes are good, they work. Make sure you got good tires on it. And it also helps to have a bike that is actually meant to go around a motocross track for the most part. Alright, so you figured out which track you want to go ride. Well, you're going to want to get there early, bright and early. If the track opens at 8 and riding starts at 9, I suggest being there at 8. So you can get signed in, get a good parking spot, get unloaded, geared up. You have all that time, you're not rushing. Plus, it also helps to be one of the first people on the track, because the track is perfectly groomed in the morning and it's nice and smooth. And as a beginner or a first timer on a motocross track, that really will help you get comfortable with the track before it starts developing ruts and bumps and things like that. So be there bright and early. That's my suggestion. Generally on practice day, start very slow in the morning. There's not a lot of people there. There are people that don't like to wake up very early. So if you arrive nice and early and you plan to be the first one on the track, there's going to be a lot less people on the track, which will help you a little bit with your nerves for, it's your first time there, right? Now, as the day goes on, it does pick up. If the track opens, let's say at 9 o'clock, by 11 o'clock, traffic's going to build up a little bit. But as the track starts getting rougher later in the day, people go home. A lot of people go home early. So if having a lot of other bikes on the track with you is what's making you nervous, plan on getting more of your riding in early in the morning, and then also a little bit later in the day when people go home. Yes, the track will be rougher at that point, and the lines will be a little bit deeper. But man, you'll own the track. It'll pretty much be yours about an hour before the track closes, because most people go home and there's sometimes only 3 or 4 people on a local track on a practice day for the last hour. It's just kind of how it goes. But I would totally suggest starting in the beginner class. Even if you're actually a lifelong rider, you've been riding trails and woods most of your life and flat fields, and you feel like you're a fast guy as far as that's concerned, but you never actually gone around a motocross track, just do yourself a favor and start in the beginner class. You can move up anytime during the day. If all of a sudden you find that you're, blasting by these other beginners, you can go switch classes, but start in the beginner class and be the first person on the track in your class. Now, some tracks, they start because, like I mentioned, people don't show up early, right? So some tracks start with open practice in the morning. And if that's the case, you might be out there with other guys that are faster. And I'll get to that in a little bit later in the video about holding your line and things like that. But if they start right with classes, be the first one on the track in your class. Get there bright and early, be the first one on the track. And if it starts with open practice, even then, be the first one on the track. If it starts getting hectic for you, then you can go ahead and stop riding, pull off, and wait until they actually start breaking it up in classes. And then you can ride the beginner class from that point on. Depending on how the track breaks it up, a lot of times they might put beginner class with C. C means basically you're kind of a beginner, maybe a seasoned beginner, I guess you would say. You have A, B, and C, right? A are your really fast guys, B is your pretty fast guys, and C is not so fast. Then you have beginners. Sometimes they put C and beginners together, depending on the track. Sometimes it's beginners only. They get their own class. But in the beginner class, for the most part, most people aren't really jumping much. They might air it out just a little bit, get the wheels off the ground, maybe a couple feet. But for the most part, you're not going to have to worry about anyone jumping over your head. And that's the beauty of having classes, because the fast guys are going to, the A class and the B class, they're going to be jumping everything. Every triple on the track, every And if you're out there with them guys, them are the guys that might be jumping over your head, or at least it feels that way. They're technically not going to be jumping over your head. They'll be right beside you, but you might look up to your right or your left and see the underside of someone's bike, and that can be pretty alarming. So, but in beginner class, that won't happen. If someone catches air, it's only going to be about 3 feet off the ground. It's not going to be anything crazy, and that's where you want to be if it's your first time in motocross track. Even if you're a seasoned rider, I suggest starting there. And I will tell you, more times than not, I find riding around a motocross track to actually be safer. You know, I just missed something here. To actually be safer than just free riding in a, you know, public riding area or some woods around your house or whatever. Because when you're going around a motocross track, you get familiar with the track every lap you go around, and it becomes memorized, so you always generally know what to expect. Everyone's going the same direction. That really helps. You don't have to worry about head-on collisions or being side-swiped or anything. And so if you're worried about safety, again, the safety's in your own hands. As long as you don't do anything crazy, I find them generally safer. You're not going to have to worry about rebar sticking out of the ground or, you know, anything like that, because, you know, tracks are pretty well kept up. So typically tracks are safer for the most part. So keep that in mind. And if you're nervous, well, just know the nerves kind of, for most riders, it kind of never goes away, and you learn to enjoy it after a while. You're always going to be a little, for most riders, we're always going to be a little bit nervous when we first get on the track. That's just what happens, but after a lap or two, that kind of fades away. It's just part of the sport, you know. It's an extreme sport. So there's going to be a little bit of nerves. Just because you're a beginner and you feel the nerves, don't think that not anyone else is, because even the fastest guy out there might still be getting nervous when he's rolling up to the track that morning. These chickens love peanuts, and Beavis is wet. It's raining out there right now. Here's some more peanuts. My dog, Leo, you like peanuts too? Alright guys, I'm in the middle of making a video. You gotta give me some room. And now, once you get on the track, just remember baby steps, right? You don't have to go out there and tackle every jump right away. Again, I'm mainly talking about the jumps here, because I'm assuming that you already know how to ride. Generally, it's your first time at a track where you're going to have jumps. And maybe where you ride at, they have some, you know, hills that you've been jumping or whatever, some natural terrain type jumps. But motocross jumps are a little bit different, so that's why I'm kind of focusing on the jumps here. But, you know, just baby steps, right? Go around the track, ride around, and get familiar. At first, you're going to have to learn to memorize the track. You're going to have to learn the track. So just baby steps. Go get your laps in, do some laps around the track until you have everything in your memory. And then if you feel like you're comfortable enough to start trying to attempt some of the jumps, just kind of pick one thing at a time, one section at a time. Pick one little jump that you feel comfortable with, the face feels right for you, the landing has a easy landing that if you come up a little bit short, you're not going to case it. Preferably like a very small tabletop or a small double. And just kind of, you know, do your laps, but every time you come around to that little jump, give it a shot, you know, and then do your lap, come around. When you get to that jump, try it again until you get that jump down. Once you get the downside of that jump, you get the feeling, it's awesome. And then you can maybe start looking at the next jump on the track down the road. But no pressure, right? You don't have to rush into it. Just easy does it and take your time. And the same is true for the corners too. If you want to learn how to corner real fast on a motocross type corner, you kind of pick a corner or two that you feel more comfortable with. And when you get to that corner, just give it all the beans in that corner. Try to see how hard you can hit that corner or how well you can execute it. And sections at a time too. Basically, you want to break the track up into segments and focus on a certain segment that you want to improve on, and then finish your lap up just nice and easy, having fun. And when you come to that section, that's where you focus on that section. Once you have that section down, then you can pick another section and start working on that. Now, as you're doing this, it's real important to hold your line. On a motocross track, people kind of expect you to hold your line. What holding your line means is if you're on the far left end of the track, don't out of nowhere just shoot to the far right end of the track. Don't out of nowhere just shoot to the far left, and vice versa. If you're in the middle of the track, don't just go here real quick. You'll see that there's lines in the track. You know, we're cutting grooves in the track, our wheels are. And you kind of want to hold your line for the most part. Anytime you change lines from, you know, outside line to a middle or middle to the inside, it's almost like changing lanes when you're driving a car. So you want to take a peek and make sure that you're not going to clip your rear wheel is not going to clip someone's front wheel when you change lines. And keep your ears open, of course, too. That helps. You'll hear a bike when they get up behind you. But just take a quick peek back and make sure that you're not about to clip someone's wheel when you change lines. It's pretty easy. I know it might start sounding complicated as I explain all this stuff, but you'll see what I mean when you get to the track. It's real important to hold your lines. That is one of the mistakes that beginner riders do at the motocross track, is they don't hold their lines very well. And sometimes it just happens by accident. You know, you're in your line and you just lose control of the bike a little bit and you drift off. That's expected from beginner riders. Honestly, it really is. And that's why you guys have your own class, because generally everyone's speed is a little bit slower in that class. So if you do jump lines and you bump into someone, it's not as bad of a, crash, so to say, or bump. It's not going to be as bad. Whereas if you're a beginner rider and you slip into the advanced class and you don't hold your line, that guy coming up behind you is literally hauling ass. And you're gonna jump into his line, and at that point he's gonna impact you pretty hard. But if you're in the beginner class and you get out of line, even by accident, the guy you might bump into is only doing about your speed, so it's just gonna be a little bobble or whatever. Y'all gonna bump into each other. One person might fall over, but it's not gonna be bad. It's pretty cool, right? It's not very often I have both my bikes in the shop at one time. That's my 250. That's my 125. And this here is my wife's 125. She typically rides the beginner class or the C class. That's where she rides typically. But another very important tip I have for you is, if you do fall, tip over, or crash on a blind spot of the track, typically your blind spots on the track are going to be the landing of jumps, right? So you have a big face or a smaller face or whatever. You have a face of a jump, and then you have the landing over here. And if you crash over here at the landing, even if you weren't even doing the jump, you just roll over and you just tip over. We have flaggers, and most tracks have flaggers, and the flagger will run up to will flag, and everyone will slow down and not jump that jump until you get your bike up off the ground and take off again, right? But sometimes it takes a flagger time to get the traffic under control. Sometimes they didn't even see that you went down, and some tracks don't even have flaggers. It's rare nowadays, but some don't. So if you crash on the downside of the jump, first thing you do is, excuse my language here, get your ass off the track, right? Forget about your bike. You don't have time. If you crash on the downside of the jump, get off the track. That's your first priority. There have been people hurt. Even recently, there have been people hurt because they crashed on the downside of the jump. The flagger didn't notice it. They decided to pick their bike up, and as they're picking their bike up, someone else comes over the jump, collides into them. So I understand it in a perfect world we can get our body and our bike off the track, but it takes too long sometimes to get your bike off the track. So just get yourself off the track until traffic is under control. Now you can help with getting traffic under control. You get off to the edge of the track and run up the edge of the jump, preferably off the track on the edge of the track, and get up to the top of the jump and start waving traffic. Stop, hey, stop, and everyone will slow down and stop. No one will jump that jump, and that'll save someone from pile driving your bike, and yeah, you don't want that. So you can help flagging. Don't run up the middle of the jump. Don't run up the middle of the jump to go flag. That's not safe, because someone's going to come over that jump and they're just going to hit you. You want to be on the very, very, very edge of the jump at the very least, preferably off the track. But if the edge of the track is very steep, just run up the very, very edge of the jump, because most people aren't going to be jumping a jump on the very edge. And if they do, you are on the very edge. You can just hop off and you'll be fine. If you see someone coming, you can just jump off and you'll be fine. But get up there, help flag until traffic's under control. Typically, the next rider will come up and stop when they see you flagging, and they'll take over flagging for you, so you can run back down, pick up your bike, and continue riding. And if you yourself see a flagger waving the flag as you're coming up to a jump or a section that will have a blind spot behind it, slow down. Just don't jump it. Just go slow. That way you don't collide into anybody. And if you see someone down and they're picking their bike up, as you go around them, just be easy on the throttle. It's practice day, right? Don't roost them. That's kind of rude. I understand during a race, that's Them are different terms. But during a practice day, if you have to go by someone that's down and picking up their bike, or they stalled their bike and they're starting it, just ease up on the throttle as you go by so you don't roost the crap out of them. It's just good track etiquette. And obviously, if you see someone down and they're hurt, it doesn't hurt to pull over and help them out. If their bike's on top of them, they can't get it off them, same thing. Help, everyone knows this stuff. In the pit area, wherever you're pitted at, when you're done, pick up your trash. I'm known to drink a water bottle and just throw it down on the ground right there where I'm sitting at, drinking another one in the summer, throw it on the ground. I might have a pile of water bottles all around me, but when it's time to leave, I take my time, pick up all them water bottles, all the trash. If I see any extra trash from the previous person that was there, I go ahead and pick that up too. It's just the right thing to do. And the same is true for the tear-offs on your goggles. During a race, rip them off as much as you need, But during practice day, try not to litter. If you're riding around the track and your goggles get dirty and you feel like you have to rip a tear off, usually what I do is I just try wiping it with my finger first. I kind of slow down, pull over, try to save the tear off. Plus, at least I'm not littering. If I do have to pull a tear off and I can, I kind of just stick it in my pants. Unless it's an emergency, like let's say I'm riding and the person in front of me just shoots mud all in my face and I can't see, then I'm just ripping that tear off, period. So on practice day, tear-offs for me are to protect my lens so I don't get scratches on them, and for emergency reasons if my vision totally gets blocked off by the guy in front of me. But otherwise, I don't rip them to look cool, just ripping a tear off while I'm in the air. I try not to litter the track because that technically it's littering. I understand, it's part of the sport, but I try to save that for when I absolutely have to. Now again, race day is different, but we're not talking about race day here. We're talking about just normal practice days. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, when you go to get on the track for the first time, know the direction of the track that everyone's going. If it's not obvious, wait until you see someone go by, and then okay, that's the direction we're going. I have seen people get on the track and go the wrong direction, so just make sure you know the direction of the track. And riding on motocross tracks will make you a better rider, even if you're typically just a hare scramble rider or a play rider. Getting a little bit of track time, even just a little bit, it's going to make you a better rider. It's almost like cross training for athletes, right? So during the hare scrambles that I do down here in Florida, FTR races, when we come up to sections where they might slip in a few jumps or whatever, I can typically tell who has track experience and who doesn't. I've seen guys that are so fast in the woods, but as soon as we see anything that causes your wheels to come up in the air, you can tell that they don't have any track experience by the way they hit it. There's a certain... you can tell when someone has a little bit of airtime experience because their posture is different. They have better control. When they hit when they get in the air, they look like they have control over the bike. They're just hugging the bike differently, and you can spot that out. And even when it's not jumps, in these hare scrambles, like let's just say it's a big bump in the course where your wheel's going to come up about 2 feet in the air or even 1.5 feet in the air. Even then, I can tell who has track experience and who doesn't. So it's going to make you a better, more well-rounded rider just by getting a little bit of track experience, even if you don't plan on becoming a quote-unquote track rider. And as you become a faster rider going around the track, be nice to the other track riders, the people that are slower than you, the beginners. Just remember what it was like to be a beginner. Typically what I do is as I go by someone if I can tell that they're a beginner, or they're a little nervous going around the track, I try not to rip by them too quickly, too closely, and I even try not to make so much noise when I go by them, kind of ease up on the throttle a little bit. So as you become faster, just kind of keep in mind what it was like to be a beginner. And lastly, say thanks. Be grateful to the flaggers, to the track owner, the track manager, anyone that works there. If you had a good day, let them know, because I've been friends with a lot of track owners throughout the years, and they always hear the complaints. When people have complaints, they go to the owner. That's what they do. But they don't get many thanks. And I've seen it literally take their, their spirit just starts dropping to the point that they almost despise running the track, because every time they go to the track, they just hear complaints all day. So if you had a good day, take the time and give some thanks to the people. Let them know you had a good time. And while you're giving them thanks, if you do have any suggestions to the track, that's a good time to do it. But let it come on a good note. and help keep their spirits lifted so we can keep these tracks open so they're motivated to continue working on the track and just keep it going. I think that's all I got for you today, guys. Get out there, enjoy the tracks, have a good time. Oh, videos I have coming up. This bike right here, going to be doing a top end on it. It's a CRF 250R 2022. Got a video coming up of me doing a top end on that. Also, I have a video coming up of doing a top end on a 2020 KTM 450. So stay tuned for that. This weekend, I will be riding the YZ125. I'm going to go out to Moto Bros again. I had so much fun over there. Moto Bros Punta Gorda. Going to take out the YZ125 with these nice brand new MX34 tires. Going to be out there on Sunday. So I hope to see you guys out there. And if not, wherever you're riding, I hope you have a good weekend of riding. Catch you next time.